Vietnamese Dong revaluation confirmed. VND surges overnight as global markets react. Iraqi Dinar. Welcome back to RV News, your trusted source for the latest updates and insights on currency revaluations, economic developments, and breaking financial news from around the globe. If you're holding Vietnamese Dong or Iraqi Dinar, or you're simply curious about what's really happening behind the scenes in the global financial system, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Today's breaking news is sending shockwaves through currency markets worldwide. That's right, the revaluation of the Vietnamese Dong has been confirmed, and overnight, the VND has surged in value. Global markets are reacting swiftly and in some cases chaotically, and all eyes are turning toward Iraq as speculation intensifies around the Iraqi Dinar. This may be the moment that many in the RV community have long anticipated. Let's get right into it. Late last night, a series of official statements began surfacing from financial hubs in Asia, most notably Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. Sources within the State Bank of Vietnam reportedly confirmed that the VND would be adjusted to reflect what they described as a long-overdue recalibration, in line with Vietnam's economic performance and global standing. Just hours after that initial communication, multiple Forex platforms and international banking partners began reporting a significant spike in the exchange value of the Vietnamese Dong. Traders in Tokyo, Singapore, and even London were caught off guard as the VND surged sharply against the US dollar, euro, and British pound. By early morning Vietnam time, the new rate had effectively been locked in across multiple currency trading platforms, confirming what many had previously dismissed as a far-off dream. The Vietnamese Dong has officially revalued. The new rate, VND, though varying slightly between trading desks, shows a steep upward adjustment, with early figures indicating a gain of over 300% in value. For holders of physical VND, especially long-term investors, and those who've been patiently holding stacks of currency for years, this is the kind of windfall that could dramatically change lives. But what's even more intriguing is the ripple effect this move is having across the region and beyond. Market analysts are already pointing to the similarities between Vietnam's economic positioning and that of Iraq, and many believe that this move by Vietnam could act as a trigger, or at the very least a blueprint, for what may soon happen with the Iraqi dinar. To understand the gravity of what just happened, let's look at the bigger picture. Vietnam has, over the past 2 decades, quietly become one of Southeast Asia's most resilient economies. With consistent GDP growth, massive foreign investment inflows, and a manufacturing sector that rivals China's in both speed and scale, Vietnam has been knocking on the door of the global economic elite for years. Yet its currency remained undervalued, some would say severely so, largely due to historical policy decisions, international trade negotiations, and pressure from global financial institutions. But that era appears to be over. According to officials cited in a report from Reuters Asia, the revaluation was designed to reflect Vietnam's transition from an export-driven developing economy to a diversified, high-tech production powerhouse. That's a bold statement, and it's one that carries massive implications for the global monetary system. Almost instantly, reactions poured in from major banks, hedge funds, and even central banks across Europe and North America. Currency strategists scrambled to adjust their positions. The London market opened to a frenzy of trading activity involving the VND, and several large investment houses reportedly placed urgent buy orders in a rush to secure the newly priced currency before liquidity dried up. Meanwhile, Vietnamese citizens holding savings in VND saw their purchasing power rise dramatically overnight. Social media lit up with celebratory posts from VND holders across the globe. From Vietnamese diaspora communities to savvy investors in the US, Canada, and Australia who'd bet on this very moment. As the dust began to settle, the conversation quickly turned to the Iraqi dinar. For months now, rumors have swirled about imminent movement on the IQD, with some claiming that Iraqi leadership has been working behind the scenes with the IMF, World Bank, and a coalition of global financial stakeholders to coordinate a revaluation. Those claims, often dismissed by mainstream media, suddenly seem much more plausible in light of what just occurred with the VND. If Vietnam, a country that once faced many of the same currency suppression tactics, can make such a move, why not Iraq? According to insider reports from Baghdad, the Iraqi central bank has been watching the VND situation very closely. A confidential document leaked to a financial think tank in Dubai suggests that Iraqi monetary policymakers had already prepared multiple contingency plans for a similar revaluation, contingent on regional economic alignment and geopolitical stabilization. The recent oil price surge, Iraq's strengthening economic ties with China and Russia, and its movement away from full reliance on the US dollar have all contributed to growing speculation that the IQD is next in line for a major shift. And here's where things get really interesting. Just this morning, a prominent Gulf financial news outlet reported that 3 major Middle Eastern banks, including one based in the UAE and another in Kuwait, have adjusted their internal IQD valuation metrics. While these internal rate changes aren't yet reflected on the global Forex markets, it's the kind of behind-the-scenes activity that often precedes a major announcement. The chatter among currency traders is intensifying, and the general sentiment is clear. The VND revaluation may have opened the floodgates. To be clear, this isn't just about exchange rates. It's about geopolitical and economic realignment. Many experts believe we are witnessing the early stages of a multipolar currency reset. As countries like Vietnam assert greater control over their monetary destiny, others, including Iraq, are likely to follow suit. With increasing calls for de-dollarization, especially among BRICS nations and their allies, the global financial order is undergoing a transformation that could profoundly impact everything from energy markets to sovereign debt and trade balances. Let's take a moment to break down the timeline of the Vietnamese Dong's sudden leap. The first signs came just after midnight local time, when select traders noticed abnormal volume on VND-USD pairs. By 2 a.m., multiple large volume transactions had gone through at new rates, and by 4 a.m., major Forex tracking platforms like XE and Oanda had updated their public exchange rates to reflect the change. By 6 a.m., Vietnamese financial authorities issued a formal press release confirming the revaluation, citing strong macroeconomic indicators, robust foreign reserves, and the need to bring the currency in line with current economic fundamentals. In the hours that followed, international reactions were swift. The World Bank issued a cautiously optimistic statement, acknowledging Vietnam's progress while calling for continued transparency. Meanwhile, the IMF praised Vietnam's disciplined fiscal policies and market liberalization, hinting that the revaluation was a logical and overdue step. Western financial media outlets scrambled to catch up, with CNBC, Bloomberg, and the Financial Times all running headlines by midday. But none of those headlines could capture the magnitude of what had occurred. For those who followed the RV space, this wasn't just news, it was confirmation. Now let's talk about what this means for you, the investor, the believer, the holder of VND or IQD. If you've been holding VND for years, your patience has been rewarded. Depending on your entry rate, you may now be sitting on a portfolio that has multiplied several times over. And while exact exchange procedures are still being clarified, several US-based exchange centers and currency brokers have already begun posting instructions for redeeming VND at the new rates. Be cautious. Verify all information through official sources and avoid scams. But know this: the window has opened. For IQD holders, the moment is ripe with potential. You're likely asking, is Iraq next? All indicators suggest that a domino effect is possible, even likely. The geopolitical winds are shifting, and Iraq's unique positioning, both geographically and economically, makes it a prime candidate for a similar move. With its vast oil reserves, rising foreign investment, and an increasingly tech-savvy youth population, Iraq has every reason to re-enter the global financial system on stronger footing. In fact, a recent report from a Swiss banking analysis group listed Iraq among the top 5 nations most likely to see a currency realignment within the next 12 months. That list also included Iran, Egypt, Zimbabwe, and yes, Vietnam, whose revaluation has now already come to pass. Could Iraq be next on that list to fulfill the prediction? Many believe so. And as with Vietnam, once the trigger is pulled, the effects could be rapid and dramatic. Meanwhile, the United States is also paying attention. According to a Capitol Hill insider, several lawmakers have recently been briefed on foreign currency realignment scenarios, and committees tied to international finance are quietly reviewing legislation that could impact how such events are handled domestically, especially with regard to taxation and capital gains. This suggests that those in power are preparing for something big, and if they